Welcome back to the Politbureau. So will the changes we are seeing on so many fronts since the ANC's elective national conference in December 2017 claim their biggest scalp, the President of the Republic? After all, it was on his watch that the systemic corruption the ANC appears to be confronting now got entrenched. Let's continue our discussion. I'm still joined by my three guests. Iraj, what do you think? How far will this whole process go? I mean, we're seeing these moves in terms of what the NPA is doing. We're seeing the changes in state-owned enterprises. How far will it go? There was that discussion that happened over the weekend around the recall or resignation of Jacob Zuma. Do you think we're at that point where it will go that far? Does it look that way to you?
Absolutely. I think we live in a constitutional democracy. And as soon as the institutions of law enforcement press certain buttons, they don't have a control to reverse it. The law will take its course. At the same time, very importantly, for ANC's own integrity and chances of success, the ANC has to go all the way. It cannot stay midway. And it's so important that the ANC regains its moral legitimacy and political leadership of the society. Much of our economic performance over the past 25 years has depended upon and driven by the fact that ANC had the moral authority and had the political dominance. ANC still, I believe, could have political dominance if it can quickly regain its political legitimacy and moral authority, and that's very good for the economy. So I believe both for the ANC's sake and for the sake of, and driven by the constitutional provisions, it will go all the way.
Khanisa, can the ANC go all the way, given the dynamics inside the leadership of the ANC itself? I mean, when that leadership was elected, I remember we were all sitting with calculators and adding that, you know, what's the split in terms of who stands with who in that leadership. Can it go all the way with people such as Mosebenzi Zwane, Ace Magashule, Faith Mutambi in that leadership? Can the institutions, can this honeymoon last? That the institutions are allowed to go all the way and tackle whoever needs to be tackled? I
think that was the discussion and the point raised actually by Cyril Ramaphosa in his political overview to the NEC, and we've heard that he stressed a lot about this, to say that we need to sort of come together and leave all the baggage that sort of everyone had and the enmity and whatever else that everyone was carrying.
Yeah, cleanse it.
And yes, and rally behind this sort of new direction and this new path. So he also sort of painted it as this newfound optimism that the ANC needs to capitalize on, which is an interesting point. But at the same time, if you hear or if you understand the deliberations that actually went on that led to the decision of the managing of the transition / resignation of the president, you'd understand that his key lieutenants, those who bent over backwards for him, sort of abandoned that kind of fight now, because they've realized that no one wants to go against the tide. No one wants to be seen on the wrong side of history. And so, yes, there will be some people who will have to, be looking out for themselves. But I do think that a lot has happened in a very short period of time for people to still believe that they can sort of clash on old habits, number one. And number two, that they are able to get away with things, in the past administration. Just for one example that you raised, Faith Mutambi, Cyril Ramaphosa spoke at length yesterday as well in the Lekgotla in his political remarks over the fact of government employees contradicting the party on policy matters, and that was the embodiment of Faith Mutambi. She did that for the last 3 to 4 years, where she went her own way, and the party had to repeatedly try to sort of get her in line. So I think that definitely there will be some sort of merge at the end.
Kabela, how do you see this one unfolding? A lot of people now are looking at the next milestone, the delivery of the State of the Nation address. How does that scenario play in your mind?
Well, the biggest player in this whole thing, which we hardly acknowledge, it's public expectations, which is communicated via our news channel here, via social media, via many other platforms. That, as the public expectation is saying, get your act in order. And I think that Cyril Ramaphosa kind of like got the mood of the nation, that people are expecting action. So it's very difficult to turn back the tide of cleaning up, even though you have people like Ace Magashule, who we now know through the Gupta leaks and through this asset forfeiture unit decision that they've taken out to freeze assets, that actually his government, when he was there, he's still there as premier, was heavily involved in this freezing of money and state assets and all of that, money being taken out to Dubai and other places. So even though he's there as Secretary General, given the public expectation, it's difficult for him to fight for his own survival in this context.
And the interesting thing is many of the ANC, in fact, most of the ANC positions on these matters as they unfold will be communicated by Ace Magashule himself, even where, they may implicate him. Case in point, the decisions taken around the leadership of the Free State.
Indeed. In fact, even worse is that now that the state of capture inquiry has been announced, and the judge has been appointed, we are now waiting for terms of reference and the commencement of the hearings, appointment of staff. We know that Ace Magashule will be one of the list of people, will be on the list of people to testify as an accused or as a witness or whatever it is, but he will be grilled in that commission. The question will be, when that time comes, does the ANC allow its Secretary General, who represents the party, to appear in a commission of inquiry like that while he's Secretary General of the ANC?
Yeah.
That's another issue.
Thank you so much for coming through this morning. Strap yourselves in. It looks like we're in for quite a ride in the coming days, weeks and months. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Politbureau, my panel there. After the break, was the public protector misunderstood when she called for the scope of the State Capture Commission of Inquiry to be widened? Or is she trying to shuffle away from yet another controversy?